Hi everybody! Today we're going to be talking about 3 ways to use self-compassion to be more productive. I get that sometimes it can feel like you're getting pulled in a million different directions. There's so much to do in so many aspects of your life, and honestly, there's just really not enough time. Way too much of the time, we end up responding to that by beating ourselves up. You know how this sounds. The script plays in your head and you start to tell yourself, you're lazy, you're stupid, you're not doing anything, you're not doing it right, you're not doing enough, you need to work harder. Well, I'm sorry to say, but beating yourself up is just not going to work. It's not going to make you more productive, it's not going to make you work faster, it's not going to help you get more done. And if you think about it, you'd never talk to a child that way, would you? If a child needed to do more, you wouldn't tell them that they were stupid or lazy because they didn't clean up their toys. We need to learn how to stop beating ourselves up because it hasn't worked yet and it's not going to start, and start using self-compassion to be able to be more productive. So what does that mean? How can we use self-compassion and actually quantify it and turn it into something that we can use day in and day out to support ourselves in our productivity? This is going to sound counterproductive, but I promise you it's not. The first thing we need to learn how to do is take breaks. Have you ever been working on something for such a long time that you start to feel like you're beating your head against a wall? It's like you don't feel like you have full use of your brain. Something happened and most of your brain cells left you. And things that usually feel pretty easy for you, for whatever reason, are taking 3-4 times as long as they should. This happens the worst when you're on a deadline, when you really need something to be done by a certain time. The pressure is on and you're just pushing and pushing to try and get it done. You don't let yourself take a break because it has to be done and a break is going to make it go slower, right? Well, not really. It turns out that if you take a break and come back to it, you're probably going to be able to do it much faster and much more effectively. It turns out that being frustrated actually makes it much harder for us to think. And I know a lot of us know that and we understand it, but for whatever reason, when we're in the middle of this experience and we're really trying to get something done on the deadline, instead this scripting starts telling us how bad we are and how stupid we are and how lazy we are and why can't you just do it and why can't you just get it done? And that slows us down even more. So taking a break is the first way that we're going to use self-compassion to actually increase our productivity. What it does is it stops us when we're getting frustrated, it gives us space to get away, to take a break, to do something else, think about something else, and most importantly, calm down, so that when we come back to whatever it is that we're doing, we feel much more able to think, much more able to engage, and it doesn't feel as much like a chore. The second way to use self-compassion to increase our productivity is we have to notice what's holding us back. Have you ever had to do something that you just really don't want to do, that your being is just screaming against doing? Well, I know that I've certainly had that experience. My guess is that you have too. Our inclination is to ignore the resistance, just pretend it's not happening, white knuckle it, squeeze your fists, close your eyes, hold your breath, push through, and just get it over with so you don't have to think about it anymore. I get it. I really do understand why that seems like it would help. We just want to get it over with, and we want to not have to think about it anymore. And if we sit there thinking about it, we're going to sit there thinking about it for a really long time, and we're not going to be getting anything done. And then we have to do it later. The problem with this is that we start to associate having a really awful time and pushing ourselves through something that's really not okay with us with the task. So something that's recurring, for instance, like taking out the trash or doing your math homework. Those things are going to start to feel worse and worse. You're going to resist it and not want to do it more and more, so that next time you have to take out the trash, it's going to take even longer. So you might be wondering, okay, great, like I've noticed the resistance, I really don't want to do it, I can tell, I feel it in my chest, I feel it in my gut, I can feel it in my, in my shoulders, I'm just like tightening up against this and I really, really don't want to do it. So, where am I supposed to go from here? Well, what would you say to a little kid who didn't want to go to school? Would you say, oh, that's alright, you don't have to go? Probably not, because the little kid really does need to go to school. And the trash probably does need to be taken out, or your math homework probably does need to be done. However, we're not just going to grab the kid and throw them in the car and drive them to school while they're screaming, because that's going to make the next time they have to go to school even harder. So the same can be said for us. We're not going to just hold our breath and barrel through it, because like we've said, next time it's going to be even harder. What we want to do instead of that is take a moment to breathe into it. Notice the resistance, notice where it's coming from, notice what it's trying to tell you, and we want to interact with that part of yourself as though we were interacting with a small child. What that means is first listen, validate. Okay, I really don't want to do this. I really hate taking out the trash, or math homework always frustrates me and it's always really difficult for me, and it's a bad experience every time. After we've been able to validate it, then we want to move on to a space where we say, it's important, right? This is an important thing for me to do. It's going to be good for me in the long run. I would like to live in a space that doesn't have trash building up, and I would like to pass my class. So what's next? Well, we want to take some time to ask, how can I make this easier for myself? What can I do that's going to make this task that I know that I don't want to do feel a little bit better or a little bit more okay with me? There are a ton of potential answers to this question. If we were talking to the kid who didn't want to go to school, this might sound something like, I want you to pick your favorite stuffed animal, or I want you to find your favorite note that I've written you, and I want you to take that with you. And when you get really nervous or when you get upset, I want you to sit somewhere away from the rest of the kids in the class and take some nice deep breaths, and I want you to hold the stuffed animal, or I want you to hold the note and look at what I wrote you. So what's the equivalent of that for us in taking out the trash or doing our math homework? Well, I know that things tend to go a little bit more easily for me if I have music playing in the background, or maybe I have a podcast that I really like that supports me in taking my mind off of what I'm doing. So maybe you need to take some moments to just breathe before you take the trash out. Get your headphones, plug in some music, listen to a song or two, and then let the music carry you through the task that you really don't want to do. If we're talking about math homework, maybe that's your environment. Maybe we're talking about getting into a comfortable space, maybe on your bed, maybe on a desk, maybe in the living room, it might even be the floor, and just kind of camping out and getting some tea or something warm to drink that's comforting for you, and just kind of creating this nice experience in which to do the thing that you really know that you don't want to do. Okay guys, so we've talked about 2 ways to use self-compassion to be more productive so far. The first one is we have to learn to take breaks. The second one is we're going to notice the resistance and then see if we can engage with it and interact with it in a way that's kind, compassionate, gentle. First, we're going to validate, and from validating, we're going to ask ourselves gently, what can I do to make this experience less unpleasant? And that does sound like it's slowing us down, but I promise you, it's not. If you feel more okay with what it is that you're doing, if your last association with taking out the trash was, that really wasn't that bad, or, it was over before I even knew it, then next time you have to take it out, or next time you have to do your math homework, it's not going to take as long to work yourself up to being able to do it. And in the long run, you're going to be able to be more productive. So the third way that we're going to use self-compassion to learn how to be more productive is, ready for this one? We're going to learn how to ask for help. We're going to learn how to delegate. We're going to learn to know when enough is enough and we don't need to be doing it anymore because we're white knuckling and holding our breath, or we have other stuff that we really need to be doing. And there's someone who can help us, who wants to help us. And guys, so much of the time, I know that there's resistance to asking for help. I even understand it. I understand this idea of, but I need to be doing it. I want to feel like I was the productive one. This is my stuff. Like, I'm supposed to be the one who's getting through it, and I don't want to be a burden to anybody else. But what we're forgetting, like 90% of the time, is we have people who love us, who want to be able to help. And sometimes they just don't know how, because we're not asking and we're not telling them what they can do. So not only is this self-compassion in the traditional sense of I'm going to be nice to myself and I'm going to say nice things to myself, and I'm going to be okay with the fact that this is not perfect, that all is super important. We can talk about that more later. But it's also really healthy for our relationships because we're saying, I trust you, I appreciate you, and I really want you to be in my life in a real way that's going to make my life better. You may have noticed that most of these ways to incorporate self-compassion require you to slow down. And I know that that's really counter to how we feel when we're rushing, when we're pushing, when we have a deadline, when there's so much on our plate and it feels like it's crushing and collapsing in on us. I get it. I know that that's the last time that we want to slow down, but slowing down is what's going to make more happen. It's going to help us get more done faster. If we keep banging our head against a wall, we're just going to be doing that. We're going to be banging our head against a wall. And not only is that frustrating and upsetting for us, the scripting in our head just gets meaner and meaner, but the math homework's not getting done. All right, guys, I know that what I'm asking you to do is really difficult, and I know that it's counter to what you've been doing for all of your lives, however many decades that is, which means those patterns are going to be really, really difficult to break. Well, this is just an open invitation. These are 3 ways that I've noticed that including self-compassion can actually help you increase your productivity. And in the end, that's a great thing. So next time you have a deadline, or next time you feel a lot of pressure, or you're noticing that you're really, really resistant to doing something that's honestly very important to you, see if you can keep these in mind. Number 1, take a break. If you notice that you feel like you're beating your head against a wall, you've been trying to do something that should be simple and it's not feeling simple and it's taking way too long, take a deep breath, recognize you're not getting anything done anyway like this, and see if you can walk away. Number 2, pay attention to the resistance. Notice it. What is it saying to you? Validate it. Don't ignore it. And then see if you can incorporate something into that experience that's going to make it feel more okay, or more comfortable, or maybe just less awful. And the third and final thing is, guys, ask for help. Let's practice delegating. Let's give the people in our lives who love us an opportunity to support us and to feel like they matter too. What are your thoughts about using self-compassion to be more productive? Do any of these sound like they make sense to you? Have you tried something else that's worked really well? Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching.